Live from the Ed McMahon Mass Communications Center at Quinnipiac University, this is QNN, the Quinnipiac News Network.
Welcome to QNN Sports Extra. I'm Dan Burdick.
And I'm Eric Scalzi. The men's hockey team had a big weekend, starting out with a sold-out crowd on Friday night in Hamden for the 13th annual Heroes Hat Game between Yale and Quinnipiac. Similar to the game played in New Haven earlier in the season, the game ended in a 2-2 tie. The Bobcats had an explosive first period, taking a 2-1 lead, but were unable to secure a win by the end of overtime. Senior captain Danny Federico and Tanner McMaster scored Quinnipiac's goals. Michael Garteg stood strong in the net yet again, stopping 23 of the Bulldogs' 25 shots on goal. Well, if you didn't catch a 2-2 tie against Yale on Friday night, you were able to see it a day later when the Bobcats traveled up to Providence to play against Brown. The game ended in a draw at 2 goals apiece. The tie clinched the Cleary Cup for the Bobcats, but more importantly, they will be on the top-seeded team in the ECAC men's hockey tournament. The team won their last ECAC championship 2 years ago in the 2012-2013 season. The Bobcats hold a 15-2-3 record in ECAC hockey play and remain undefeated in their last 12 conference games.
The Quinnipiac women's basketball team clinched the #1 seed in the MAC tournament on Thursday morning with an 82-52 victory over St. Peter's. The 11 o'clock tip-off led to a slow start for the Bobcats, who shot 11 for 40 from the field in the first half. In the second half, the Bobcats picked it up and cruised to victory as Val Driscoll dropped her 4th career double-double. With a large lead at the end of the game, Coach Tricia Fabry pulled her seniors one by one as the home crowd cheered them on for their final time on Lender Court. And it was a big crowd on hand to cheer on the Bobcat women. Thursday's game marked Quinnipiac's first annual Kids Day at the Bank. The event attracted a record 3,460 fans, the largest crowd ever for a Quinnipiac women's basketball game.
The Quinnipiac men's and women's lacrosse teams started their season on Saturday, battling not only the opposing teams, but also the winter cold. Tim Schulze has more on the story.
Lacrosse and snow. You probably don't hear those two words in the same sentence that often, but for the Quinnipiac lacrosse programs, this winter's frequent snowstorms have wreaked havoc on both teams' everyday activities. Since the teams returned from the winter break, Hamden has accumulated over 30 inches of snow. Quinnipiac women's lacrosse head coach Danny Caro says that the team has been able to practice indoors, but the available time and space has restricted specific workouts.
We've been fortunate that we anticipated some bad weather, so we've been able to budget the funds we needed to be able to go to an indoor facility nearby. The only problem is it's only about half as wide as our normal field, and it's only about half as long, so it's not good in terms of practicing transition or even our settled attack. There's certain skill drills that we can do, but in terms of simulating gameplay, that's been really challenging for us. So I think that's been the biggest impact we've faced.
While the Plows are at work to clear Quinnipiac's lacrosse field, talks have stalled in an effort to build a new stadium to house the lacrosse and soccer teams. With what seems like constant snowfall, junior midfielder Leah Walters says that it hasn't been easy to prepare for the season, especially playing in freezing temperatures.
The snow's an aggravation, we have to go out to the field and practice, but we just, as a team, have to pull through and make it work.
The snow clearly has created an obstacle course both teams need to make the best of. But Caro hopes that some accommodations eventually will be made for the best interests of the teams and for the sport of lacrosse.
I know there's going to be some push certainly from a coach's perspective, and I think even from the facilities guys, about doing some sort of heating system that will allow minor snowfalls to never stick to begin with, and it will make it a little easier to clear in the future, but obviously that's not something we can retroactively add to an older facility.
Now, as you can see behind me, Facilities is prepping the field for Saturday afternoon's women's lacrosse game against Binghamton. And it makes you wonder what's going to change first. Will Quinnipiac get a new facility for its lacrosse programs as well as its rugby and soccer teams? Or will the college lacrosse season eventually get pushed back? Reporting from the Quinnipiac lacrosse field, Tim Schultz, QNN Sports.
Forget the snow. Spring is in the air, or at least in Florida and Arizona. Baseball season officially got underway this weekend with pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training. Some position players are even reporting early, Alex Rodriguez, the Yankees' third baseman, is making his return from a year-long suspension. He arrived 3 days early. And changes to the Excel Center in Hartford may have to wait after a consultant's report estimated that renovating the aging arena could cost as much as $250 million. Demolishing the stadium and building a new one could cost as much as double that price tag, according to SCI Architects of New York. Funding for any proposed renovations would have to come almost exclusively from the state of Connecticut, which will be difficult with the state facing billion-dollar deficits in each of the next 2 fiscal years.
The UConn Huskies football program didn't have a whole lot to be proud of this season until Byron Jones showed up for the NFL Combine on Monday. Jones set a combine record in the broad jump, leaping a whopping 12 feet 3 inches. Jones wasn't finished dazzling NFL personnel. He posted a 44.5 inch vertical jump, just an inch and a half under the current combine record set in 2005 by Gerald Sensabaugh. Jones will perform the bench press and the 40-yard dash events in front of scouts on March 31st in stores for UConn's Pro Day. Speaking of the Combine, we also got to see television host and journalist Rich Eisen run the 40-yard dash once again. Every year since 2005, when Broncos running back Terrell Davis challenged him, Eisen has run in his full suit and football cleats. His official time this year was clocked in at 6.1, which was over his last year's time of 5.98. He's going to have to eat his Wheaties every morning if he wants to post an even better time next year. Thanks for watching us for this edition of QNN Sports Extra.
We'll be back next week with more sports news from around Quinnipiac and around the country.